So I am John Greathouse. I'm not Gary Hansen. I'm actually standing in for Gary, quite humbly, trying to fill his shoes. Gary is the Associate Dean of the Technology Management Program, and he's actually off-site doing TMP business for us right now. So I know he wishes he could be here, but he's with us in spirit. You guys didn't come to hear me. I'm not going to tie up a lot of your time. We have three incredible speakers, and I want to get to them as quickly as we can. But I know that not everyone is intimately familiar with the Technology Management Program, so I'm going to just say a few words about it. How many people have taken a Technology Management Program class? It's hard for me to see under these spotlights, but I get an idea. How many have taken one of my classes? All right, I'll try not to repeat myself. One of the things we try to do with the Technology Management Program is give our students an unfair advantage. We really do. We want them to go out into the world and be able to compete with like graduates and beat them in the marketplace. And we do this by trying to give them the tools and the experiences necessary so that they can create wealth for their companies and really hit the ground running. Here's three examples of how we do that. I call it the 3 C's of wealth creation. The first C is confidence. And we're not talking about unbridled, sort of foolish or foolhardy confidence. We're talking about confidence that's built upon having the right tools in your toolkit and knowing how to use them. Just like a musician, you wouldn't expect a musician to run off to a store and buy an instrument and then perform publicly that evening. We don't expect our entrepreneurs to grab these tools and then run out into the marketplace and start using them. We give them a chance to actually create presentations that are then shown to venture capitalists where they get feedback. We give them the chance to create marketing plans and product roadmaps, all within the safe confines of the university setting, so that when they are ready to go out into the real world, they've used these tools and they're quite confident in how to use them. On top of this layer of confidence, we build a layer of courage. Hey, being an entrepreneur is hard. It's not easy. And if you're not courageous, you're probably not going to make it as an entrepreneur. He got his courage. And one way we do this is we demystify success. Some students come into our classrooms and they feel that success is something that happens to other people. It's not something that would happen to me. It's something I read about in books or I see it on TV. But clearly those people must have had something going for them that I don't have going for me. They must have an Ivy League MBA, or maybe they have really rich parents that help them along. But there's something going on that I just don't have. That's not true, clearly. And we show that it's not true by bringing entrepreneurs into our classroom who quite willingly describe their failures. They quite willingly talk about their own foibles and all the mistakes that they made and the fact that their companies almost went out of business multiple times before they became successful. And what it allows the students to do is draw a very direct line between these very successful entrepreneurs that they're hearing speak and where those entrepreneurs were when they were 21, 22, 23 years old. And what they find is they're often in a very similar place in their lives now as those entrepreneurs were years ago. And in fact, with the Technology Management Program, they have an advantage. They have an advantage certainly over the entrepreneurs I've worked with in my career who went to UCSB and didn't have the benefit of our program. So we instill confidence and courage, and then lastly, we layer on top of that true conviction. If you are an entrepreneur and you want to go in the world and you want to do anything that matters, anything of significance, you can be guaranteed most people will tell you you're crazy. Most people will tell you no. Most people will say things, why are you doing that? Oh, please don't do that. That's not going to work. Oh, that's crazy. And if you don't have the confidence and the courage, as well as the conviction, you'll probably listen to that advice and try something else. So we want you to listen to the advice. We tell our students, don't get angry at these people. Don't get defensive. Listen to them. You might even glean some information that's useful from all of these negative comments that you get. Listen to them and then reject it, and then go forward and change the world. So those are the 3 C's of wealth creation. But I know we're in a university setting, and sometimes when you use the word wealth, people get nervous. I see people fidgeting a little bit. What's this crazy guy talking about wealth? That's the anathema here, within a university setting. So I want to give you the full definition of wealth. It's the same definition that I share with my students. It's not about filling your bank account up with money. It really isn't. There's far more to it. If you work really, really hard and you end up having financial success and you do have a full bank account, if you come out the other end of that experience without friends and family to share that with, that is a hollow victory. And in fact, it does not fall within my definition of success. And to avoid that, you need balance in your life. You need to make sure that, you focus on your business. Being an entrepreneur is hard. You're going to work a lot. but you also need to make the time for your friends and family. You really, really do. And this isn't just happy talk, mom and apple pie sort of thing. We bring entrepreneurs into the program that have done it successfully. They come in fact, I've had entrepreneurs that bring their spouses in with them because the spouse was as much of the experience as they were. And so we show the students, we demonstrate to the students in concrete terms that balance is hugely important and it is part of this wealth that they're creating. We also make it clear to the students that part of this wealth process and this creation of wealth, this journey that they're on, part of that journey involves giving back to their communities. Now, we don't expect students in their early 20s to really give back in a meaningful way right out of the gate, but we want to plant that seed so that when they are in a position financially and otherwise to give back to their communities, that they're predisposed to do it. And again, we bring entrepreneurs into the classroom who have done this. In fact, when I read the bios and I introduce some of the entrepreneurs that come into my classrooms, I am repeatedly shocked, impressed, and amazed that oftentimes their philanthropic contributions and achievements far outstrip their financial and entrepreneurial achievements. These are people that, sure, they won on the business playing field, but they also are winning in the marketplace locally by giving back to it. And it's not just about writing checks. I mean, that's sort of the easy part. It's about giving of your time and sharing your expertise with programs in your local area to help further those programs. So we instill balance, we talk about giving back to the community, and lastly, part of this wealth equation involves doing well by doing good. In fact, we don't just preach to the students that, oh, you know, you should do well, it's the right thing. What we say to them is, yeah, that is true, it is the right thing to do. But if you want to be a serial entrepreneur that has a lifelong track record of success, not just one venture that worked, then you really should do well by everyone around you. And that's what happens in real life. It's not Hollywood's depiction of the evil, black-hearted entrepreneur that's out to screw everybody they meet. I mean, that makes an entertaining movie, but that's all it is entertainment. It's a stereotype that in the real world is not prevalent. Real-world entrepreneurs that have success after success after success, they do it just for the opposite reason. Being dishonest is really a handicap when you're trying to be a serial entrepreneur. You want people that are dying to join your next venture. You want investors lined up to invest with you again because you did right by them in that last venture. You want suppliers and vendors and other folks that are going to help support your venture. You want them waiting in line to work with you again because of the way you treated them in the past. So these three components are part of that wealth creation, and it goes far beyond just filling up your wallet and your bank account. And I want to wrap it up by being quite clear to you that I do encourage my students to be unreasonable. And I know the students that have taken my classes can vouch for this. I unabashedly tell my students to be unreasonable. And this is why. Some of you have seen this quote from George Bernard Shaw, but I think it really epitomizes my emphasis on unreasonableness. What Mr. Shaw says is the reasonable man or woman, they adapt him or herself to the world around them. They wake up in the morning and they say, okay, that's how that is. Oh, I see. This is what's going on over here. Okay, I know what I need to do now to just get by. I know what I need to do to not make waves and to follow that path of least resistance. That's frankly a reasonable thing to do. It's a lot easier than the obverse, which is, as Mr. Shaw continues, the unreasonable person, they persist in trying to adapt the world to themselves. It's the eco-entrepreneur that says, you know what, I don't think it's reasonable that cars should burn fossil fuels that pollute our planet. I think it's quite reasonable to expect that those cars not pollute our planet. It's people that wake up and say, you know, I think it's unreasonable that there's some big windowless building that has this big computer that only a few people have access to. That's completely unreasonable. I think everyone should have a computer on their desktop. That's what's reasonable. And it was people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all the other folks that you're familiar with that made that computer revolution happen. Believe me, when they were talking about doing that in the late 70s, everyone told them they were crazy. Everyone said it wasn't going to happen. It was an incredibly unreasonable proposition that they entered into. But quite fortunately for all of us, they didn't listen. They had the courage and the conviction to follow their dreams. Mr. Shaw wraps up by saying, therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man or the unreasonable woman. And so that's why I tell my students, be unreasonable. Go out there and change the world. Don't let the world change you. So if if somebody calls you unreasonable, you can blame it on me.